Warning: the following contains explicit language and subject matter that may not be suitable for younger listeners, church folk, and people who enjoy kale smoothies.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to A Pod Amongst Men. I'm your host, Steve B., and these are coffee break conversations for the 21st century. We're back for another week, another wonderful edition of A Pod Amongst Men. Thank you all for tuning in, for viewing, listening, whatever you do, however you get it. I'm just going to get right to it. So my guest today is Chauncey Julius. He's the host of Pop Talk. It's a show about fatherhood and, mentoring young men, new fathers, young fathers, old fathers, helping young fathers, and vice versa. We just got to talking about our parenting styles, where that comes from, maybe how we've changed from our folks, and, some of the things that we see today going on in the world of parenthood, to be more specific. And, it was just a good conversation. He's a cool dude, nice guy, and I was excited to talk to him, and I really enjoyed it. So I hope you guys enjoy it too, and I hope you guys get something out of it. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Chauncey Julius. Things I want to start off, just give you a heads up. This is not censored, so I don't know how you feel about curse words or whatever. But if something comes to the tip of your tongue, don't feel the need to hold it back. And that's pretty much.
I'm not really a cusser like that, and so but I don't. It doesn't bother me for the cuss around me. So don't feel like you have to tiptoe or walk on eggshells, man.
I'm a construction worker, so it kind of it comes natural.
From Jersey.
Yeah, it is what it is. What can you do? But no, I try not to use it as a crutch. Sometimes they have what they call the fuck meter, where you just say it too much, and then it's like, all right, you broke it. Now that's all anybody's hearing. Yeah. Plus, I got a kid in the house, so I'm pretty good about watching what I say.
That's dope, man.
So, Chauncey, do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? Because you're also telling me this is our first time talking. What's your story, man? Where are you from? What do you do?
So, man, it's kind of like the tale of two cities, right? And so I was born in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
And so I'm the last of the 70s, man. I was born in 1979. And so about a year later, man, my family relocated to Cincinnati, Ohio. And so I spent the majority of my childhood in Cincinnati, Ohio. My mother worked for General Motors. And so when the Saturn Corporation came about, I don't know if you remember the Saturn automobile,
of course.
They were all over the place. My family and I, we actually still drive a Saturn crossover. But my mom worked for that factory. And so she never sold her seniority when they laid her off from General Motors. And so when Saturn came out, we relocated to Tennessee, small town called Columbia, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. And it was a culture shock, man, going from, to me, which was a big city. Cincinnati was fairly large, and going to, and being an inner city kid, we lived smack dab in the inner city of Cincinnati, and moving to a Ponuk town called Columbia, Tennessee, that I've never heard of in my life. Right. Yeah. I'm thinking it's going to be like Memphis. It was nothing nothing like Memphis. And so I moved there as a teen and finished high school there. I'm a big Tennessee Vols fan. My motto is, I have two mottos, man. One is just show up, man. And then my other motto is make Jesus famous, man. I live to make him famous. My wife and I, we do that. And my hobbies are pretty much, I love graphic design. You mentioned that earlier. So I like graphic design.
You do
but
nice
I'm a
work.
cheater when
Gotta
it comes
tell
to
you,
graphic
you do
design.
Nice work.
I appreciate it, man. I cheat. And so I know the rules. I know the rules of design. And so I cheat a lot. And so I like reading, I'm one of those guys that got 10 books going at once.
What kind of stuff do you like to read?
Probably two. Man, I like leadership material, anything that makes me a better leadership. I like reading about manhood. I like reading about, I like biblical material, Christian doctrine and theology. I like reading the dead guys. dead theologians. That's what you read. I don't read contemporaries, but
you don't read a lot of Joel Osteen.
No, and I don't have anything against Joel Osteen, but I really don't drink deep from his well, man. If I do read a contemporary, it's probably like Tim Keller or Andy Stanley. He has a lot of good leadership material. Mark Driscoll, I like a lot of Mark Driscoll. That's Reformed theology. Yeah.
Okay. So,
and then I mentor young men, and so that's what I do. I mentor young men. I work for a juvenile detention center in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
And so that's where I love to do, man. I love hanging out with my fam. Man, I served in the military for over 13 years. Oh, wow. And, I really draw from those experiences and try to influence the world around me. Okay. And so my greatest talent and my greatest passion intersects when I'm helping teenage young men, really, and helping them reach their full potential. And so that's what we do. And my wife, we're here in Virginia, and we've been married for nearly 17 years. It'll be 17 years in July.
It's beautiful.
We're courageously, appreciate it, man. We're courageously raising, a daughter and a son. My daughter, she'll be 13 here this summer, and then my son, he's 7, and we're here hanging out in Richmond, Virginia, man.
Is the kids keeping you busy? Because my son right now is 10, and I have another one due at the end of May. So, and just the one alone is.
Congratulations, man!
Thank you very much. The quarantine, baby, You get trapped in those 4 walls.
I don't know. I'm done. I'm done. For real, I feel you though, man. I feel you. COVID. There's gonna be a lot of COVID. It's probably gonna be a baby boom. It's probably gonna, be a baby boom. They're gonna go back to 2020 and be like, man, hold up. Okay.
Well, that's what's gonna be like. We got the Roaring 20s all over again coming up. As soon as it opens up, better watch out. By the 30s, you're gonna have a lot of born again Christians. People have a lot of sins they're gonna want to atone for. I'm sure.
Hey, I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, man.
The COVID thing with the baby has been tough because, my wife, my whole family, we just got over it a couple weeks ago. I was out of commission for a little while. Everybody was fine.
So you had COVID?
Yeah, I had COVID, and I ended up giving it to my wife, and her parents live at our house. So everybody got it in the house, but we all had it very mild, so we're very lucky. But one of the things is that, with all the precautions with the pandemic and everything, every time my wife has to go in for any kind of appointment, like an ultrasound or what have you, she's the only one allowed in the room. I can't even go in. Like we were on the phone with the doctor today, saying, is there any kind of exception you can make? This is my first kid. This is her second kid, but it's, when I don't get to do any of this stuff. I'm going to go in there. I've already had it, and I have a negative test. And they said, we can't make exceptions. We can't give anybody special treatment. Okay.
That's rough.
It's tough because I want to be involved, and I kind of I carry a little guilt with me right now. I feel like I could be doing more, but it's not really in my hands at the moment.
So this may be a crazy thought. Like, so what are you doing in the waiting room while you waiting on your wife?
Honestly, she told me don't even bother coming. There's no point in going because like I said, her parents live with us, so her mom just drives there with her, and then they just hang out. And she said, just go to work. Might as well make money if you can't come in with me. All right. True. I mean, I appreciate the mindset. I'd much rather take off of work, but yeah, that is what it is. So but hopefully
that's tough, man.
They told us they just did the checkup on the baby, said everything's good, and they said don't worry about COVID because it's it's not really going to affect the kid unless you get it really bad. In which case, then if she had to take some kind of like special medication or had to go to the hospital with it, which luckily she didn't.
Right.
Then they're like, all right, well, we can't give XYZ medications to a pregnant woman, so then she could have been in jeopardy, and that's always the concern. Which I thought it was, that people were worried about passing it to the kid. And they said, no, that's not the case. All right. So
that's good that the kid is not going to be affected.
Yeah, we're very lucky. Let's change. I don't want to get too deep into the COVID stuff. Let's keep on a more positive note, So I try to find with, all the guests I have on the show, especially content creators like yourself, I want to find out the things that motivate you. Now, you talked like mentorship. You talked about, with religion is very important to you. Like, what is something that motivated you to move into this space as a content creator? Because I feel like a lot of people, it's very easy to consume content, watch videos on YouTube, Instagram, whatever it is. But to make that step into creating your own, that's a whole different thing. And not everybody has that spark. You know what I mean? So what was it for you that pushed you over that line?
Well, it's always been a passion of mine. This topic of fatherlessness has always, I wouldn't say always, I would say it goes back to around 2013, 2014.
Okay.
And I was working and serving in Oklahoma City under great leader Stephen Moore. He's the executive director of Shiloh Camp. And it's a camp that it's a Christian sports camp and summer camp, and it ministers to inner city youth, and that's their focus. And it was during that time there that, I feel like I was impregnated with this passion to serve inner city youth and serve them in this respect, right? Mm-hmm. Because, man, I was just seeing so many young men and so many young ladies that would come across my path who were fatherless, right? And it was affecting them. And then when I started actually doing some homework on the subject and reading some books, one of the first books I read was Fatherless Generation by Dr. John Sowers.
Okay.
And it blew my mind. 20 plus million children who are fatherless in America. And what blew my mind about it, and what kind of stirred up this passion and inspired me to kind of really continue to do some more investigation, was that there was no major coverage, right? Mm-hmm. If 20 million of anything is moving, I don't care if it's $20 million, I don't care if it's 20 million COVID cases, right? America is going to track it, and not only track it, but it's going to get some national attention, right? On the news and major news outlets. But it just seems like there was no major conversation around it. And that bothered me. And so the aim of Pop Talk is just simply to take this topic of fatherlessness from a whisper to a full-blown conversation, just as COVID is, just as poverty, hunger, prison reform, and to make it a household name, if you will.
Well, it's pretty striking. Like, I've done a little bit of reading on the topic. I can't say I've studied it, but in the stuff I've seen in passing, the stats regarding, the outcomes. And
I'm not an expert by any means. I'm not an expert.
Listen, neither am I. It is what it is. I'm just some jerk off that works,
right.
in construction.
There
but it is, like I said, it was striking when you see some of the stats of what becomes of a lot of the kids that are raised in households without fathers.
Absolutely.
And it's just, it's night and day in a lot of cases. And some kids are very lucky that, the people that are raising them are able to make ends meet and put it all together. But, if you're a kid coming up in that situation, you're really starting with one hand tied behind your back, to say the least. The outcomes in terms of education, grades, and, where they end up career-wise, what kind of mental health situation they end up in. It affects everything. Like, father.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, fatherlessness is this thread that connects a majority of the social ills that plague our communities, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like, the U.S. Department of Justice, they came out with some stats surrounding fatherlessness and children who come from father-absent homes, and 63% of youth suicides, mm-hmm. Like those children come from father-absent home, behavioral disorders, high school dropouts. You're more likely to drop out of school. 71% of all high school dropouts are fatherless. And I work at the Juvenile Detention Center. So I'm seeing this. And so, there's this counter argument out there that's saying, man, this is not true. Those numbers are lies. Those statistics are trumped up. I beg to differ. Mm. I've been working in the Juvenile Detention Center. I worked for before I worked there, I worked at the Boys and Girls Club for several years. And like, convince me that these stats are lies. I don't see it, you know. They say 70%. I'm seeing it.
Yeah, you're
I'm
seeing the
seeing
proof every day.
every day. And of the youth that I've served at the Juvenile Detention Center, incarcerated youth, I would say 98% of them are fatherless.
So,
meaning that, you know, they grew up in a father absent home. Some of them never seen their father. I have a kid right now who his father has been incarcerated for the past 22 years. He's 17. My cousin alone, my cousin, I did the podcast with him. I started the podcast with him. He said the first time he met his dad was when he was 11, and that was behind prison glass.
Jesus.
And so these kids are growing up without dad, and man, it's affecting every area of their lives, man. It's sad.
One of the things, and this is not, you know, any kind of research, you know, point that I've come to. This is just kind of something, you know, me and people I know have kind of talked about, and just like a realization. So it's really, and I've said this on the show before, so anybody listening, I apologize if you're hearing it again, but, you know, I'm going to say it again because I think it's important. When a kid is born, you know, obviously you come out of your mother. That's a very special, unique relationship that can't be duplicated at any other point in your life. But then your father is typically the first other person you really meet in your life, you know, and that's not your mother. That's kind of the basis for how you build all of your relationships henceforth throughout your life, you know? And that relationship with your father, like, that just informs and affects everything else in your life, whether it be in a small way or a big way. And, like, again, this is just something that I've thought about. So if you feel, you know, I'm off point on something, let me know. But that, it's just it's easy to overlook a father's impact on a child's life, you know, and clearly, like you said, with these stats, it's very easy to see the absence of a father, the effects being felt from that.
Yeah. It's easier for a father to check out, right? It's easier for a father to check out. It seems like mom gets a head start, right? A 9-month head start. She's carrying this child around for 9 months. And then there's just this instant bond, right? Yeah. And so it's kind of like father has to work if they weren't, you know, there's so much data out there where, you know, father can create that bond before the baby is born. You know, the baby knows the father's voice and things of that nature if the father is talking to him. However, and I'm not an expert on any of that, but however, you know, the father really has to be intentional about making a connection with that child early, right?
Yeah.
And I know the mistake that I made, and I know we may get into this later, but the mistake that I made was, you know, just like, man, I can't wait till they become a teenager because that's my sweet spot, right? But that's a huge mistake. You have to start making that connection early, man, in the infancy stages of that child's life, right?
Yeah, that's the foundational point.
Man, that's just one of the things that, absolutely, man. It's layers to this, levels to this, man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It just ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna fall in your lap. And so
I'd say, like, starting at the teenage years is kind of like building a house roof first. You know, like, we got to start from the ground floor. And I completely 100% understand that thought process. It's like, you know, they're still just a kid. Like, I don't know how to communicate and get them to understand what I'm trying to convey. And it can be frustrating. And it's, there's so many times I'm like, God damn it, I wish this kid would just grow up a little bit already. Like, you know?
Right. Like, man, I'm waiting for this kid to use word. You know, but, you know, and then you look at the mom and she's all in, right? You know, and I know there's mothers that deal with postpartum and what have you, but I'm talking about for the most part, like, mom's all in, she's changing diapers, she's talking, she's she's singing to the baby, she's dressing the baby, she's doing the baby's hair, she's finding so many ways to connect and so many touch points with the child. And dad, you know, I was so ill-equipped, you know, and then not to mention, you know, feeling inadequate, feeling ill-equipped. Like, man, okay, I was looking forward to becoming a dad. However, man, I don't know if I have what it takes, right? And so I would just encourage those dads to just hop in, get involved, and also get some therapy as well.
Yeah.
Get some counseling.
Well, that's a big thing. I've talked about that here, that trauma that we carry that we might not even realize we're carrying is real easily passed down, onto our kids. And next thing you know,
it affects the father.
Yeah, they're dealing with our problems that we haven't resolved.
Absolutely.
I want to get into that a little later. I want to touch back on something you said before. That's a little off topic, not off topic, but a little bit of a tangent. You were talking about building that connection with the kid before they're born, like talking to your wife's stomach.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something I should be doing. I didn't even think about that, and it kind of gave me a little light bulb moment. And we've been doing the headphones on her stomach, trying to curate special playlists and stuff. And you mentioned singing to the kid, and I remember my stepson when he was little. I didn't know. I tried to sing to him one time, but I couldn't think of anything to sing, and I ended up like thinking about the show Scrubs, and I started singing "Me and Mrs. Jones," and I was like, I don't think I could ever do this again. It's an amazing feeling as a new father, especially that feeling, like you said, of being unprepared and ill-equipped. And it's like you get thrown right into that deep water, Yeah. And one of the things for me, especially creating this podcast, is that I was struggling with that feeling as a new father. I got married, and all of a sudden I had, a 6-year-old son. It's like, okay, I think I know what to do. And then you quickly realize I don't know the first thing about this. And a lot of guys start feeling alone and even isolated. It's like, maybe I just suck at this. Maybe I'm bad. And then talking to other people and hearing the kind of things, oh, we all deal with this. This is not uncommon. That was something that helped me, and that's what I want to give to other people, whether it's about fatherhood or whatever else. So
absolutely. Yeah, fatherhood, you said a key thing, other people, right? Mm-hmm. And so I say this a lot. I say fatherhood isn't a solo sport. It's not like golf, right? It's not like pool, or it's not a solo sport. It's not bowling. It's a team sport. Right. You need a team of dads. I had a mentor that told me this about my marriage. He said that your marriage needs about 150 years of shade, right? Meaning that, you have a relationship with a married couple over here. They've been married 15 years, couple over here, 5, another couple over here, maybe 20, another couple over here, 20, it all adds up to about 150 years covering and protecting your marriage. I would venture to say you need the same thing when it comes to fathering. Absolutely. You need to be a part of a team of dads, a team of fathers who are doing fatherhood together. You're doing life together. So you can ask questions. Fathers that have been on both sides, young fathers, old fathers, empty nesters. And I feel that if you're a part of a team like that, I mean, man, and you open yourself up to be teachable when it comes to fatherhood from other fathers, I think you'll get farther faster.
Absolutely. One of the things that, I learned years ago when I did martial arts, there's an interesting analogy. They were saying, imagine you're this plastic cup and the water is the knowledge. If you go around thinking that you know everything and you don't want to listen to everybody, you're basically going around with a full cup. How are you going to learn anything? You need to humble yourself, empty that cup so you can gain knowledge and wisdom from everybody else. And that's how you learn, instead of making mistakes and repeating their mistakes, instead of just actually listening and saving everybody a little trouble and heartache, That's right. Nobody likes a know-it-all. Nobody likes a know-it-all. We need to strive as fathers, as men, to be learn-it-alls, right? To be teachable. I like that. Learn-it-alls.
Are you a know-it-all or are you a learn-it-all? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one of the things that, people in our area, in terms of talking about fatherhood and parenthood, one of the things that has been coming up a lot in the last several years, especially with the way everything has been kind of changing in society, or at least it seems like it is trying to evolve our ideas of what fatherhood means and what manhood even means. And it's trying to essentially go through all these ideas and all these traditions that we've carried on throughout the ages and figuring out what works, what serves us best, and what things maybe don't serve us or even harm us. So in
Right.
your in your experience, were there any things, any methods, even like our parents' generations used that you either really like and want to carry on, or on the other hand, want to get rid of and forget about? Is there anything that stands out to you in your mind?
When you ask that question, all I can think of is just the spankings, right?
So let's start with things that we want to get rid of. Let's try to we'll keep it.
Right.
I don't want to throw too much in this one question.
I got you. I think the one thing that I would just get rid of is just the passivity.
Okay.
I feel like I saw a lot of passivity in my parents' parenting. There was things that I know they saw that I just and let's take a step back, right? Let's put a disclaimer out there. My parents did their best.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a 2-parent home, but there was a time right before adolescence where my dad checked out due to substance abuse.
Okay.
Crack epidemic swept through my community. My home wasn't immune. My dad struggled, and he's sober now. However, man, it took a toll on my family. And so we were dealing with a lot of, we were in survival mode, if you will, right? And so I feel like that led to a lot of passivity. Man, my mother was working 60 plus hours in a car factory. My dad was running the streets, draining the family bank account. We had a lot of issues that we were dealing with. The streets were tugging at me as a youth.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I compromised, I was out there doing God knows what in the streets. And so I just felt like my mother had to wear a lot of hats, and a lot of problems that came across her doorstep, she just didn't have the energy to address, and I'm not trying to make excuses for my mom, but I just feel like one of the things that I just want to really do away with in my parenting and in my fathering is passivity. And I see a need for that, like nobody's business, just to be involved, especially with technology and everything like that. Man, it's easy to become distracted and just for something else to have your attention, something else to have your focus,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then when you throw in a podcast and trying to build a brand, man, it makes it extra hard. And so I feel like when it comes to parenting, we can't be passive parents. We have to be involved, engaged parents. And so, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it's great. Let me ask you this regarding that. How do you find the balance between being involved and not being passive versus one of the things that we see a lot nowadays is like the helicopter parent, the parent that's over involved. They're trying to over structure the kid's life. Like, where's your balance? Like, how do you find it?
Well, first off, I don't believe in balance. I don't believe in balance. I believe in managing tension, right? There's always this tension there, right? Like kind of like with tug of war, right? There's always this ebb and flow and this tension. And my thing is just to manage the tension, right? And so when I walk through the door at 5, and I haven't mastered this, I don't want to act like I've arrived, but when I walk in the door at 6:30, when I come home from work, my kids could care less about, pulling a 12-hour shift.
Mm-hmm.
They want time. They want my attention. They're showing me artwork that they've done while they were at home, their virtual schooling. They want to tell me about their day. They want me to watch a movie with them. They want me to sit at the dinner table and eat with them and engage with them. And so, man, I need to be involved. Yeah. And then with my wife, the question is, are the domestic responsibilities divided fairly after 5 p.m., right? Like, cause she's working 40 plus hours a week too. Mm-hmm. And so I need to be all in, right? And so that leads to another issue, which is like, man, I need to not give my best to my job, right? I need to have something left over and not just some lousy leftovers for my family, but I need to manage that tension, right? Mm-hmm. And know when to pull back off the gas and know when to let the gas, when to floor it, at work. But, you just need to manage that tension, because I feel like balance is just, when do we know it when it's balanced, but we need to not be passive, be courageous, right? We need to lead courageous and step up and show up. And so when you know that, like, man, something is going on in the other room and I'm over here in my man cave, I need to go to where the laughter is. I need to go to where I hear a crucial conversation happening between my wife and my daughter, right? I need to be involved in that, right? I don't need to be distracted. And so I know that's probably a long answer to a short question, but we just simply need to be engaged. I feel like if you don't hear anything from me, man, dads, we need to show up, because I feel like when we show up, our pride is not going to let us like not perform. Like we're going to give input, we're going to engage, but you can't do anything unless you show up, right? Like,
that consistency is a big thing, because you can't really be the dad that just walks in the house, goes upstairs to shower, then falls asleep on the couch, and then you want to be involved in every family discussion and act like you were there all along. It's like, oh, this guy Johnny come lately all of a sudden has an opinion.
You had no skin in the game. Like, and I've been that dad,
Listen, we all have. Yeah. I'm guilty of the same thing. I come in after working a day out in the cold weather. The last thing I want to do now is run around and chase my kid and the dog around the house and listening to the barking and the screaming. It's tough. And like you made a great point. You don't want to give your best to your job, because what do you have left when you get home to the people that really matter? And Absolutely. I understand, people have careers. We have to support our families. We have to provide. But at the same time, we need to prioritize these things,
Right. And I'm not saying be a dirtbag on the job, right?
No, of course.
No. But at the same time, we got to ask ourselves, what story do we want to tell? Mm-hmm. Right? When we're grandparents and we're sitting on the porch one day and, grandchildren are in your lap. Hey, tell me about when my mother was a kid. Tell me about when my father was a kid, granddad. Like, what story do we want to be able to tell? Do we want to be able to say that we were present or that we were absent? Because I have that story. That's why I'm so passionate about fatherlessness. My dad was there, but unaccounted for, under the same roof, eating meals, but just completely checked out.
I feel like that might be like, I think that's a generational thing, a lot of it, because my grandfather's generation was the same way, and even if they didn't, it wasn't something like your situation. It's just you went to work and I didn't have energy to deal with the screaming kids. That's a woman's job. That was the mentality back then. Yeah, and it's so much of that old. My wife is Cuban, so we use I speak a lot of Spanglish these days.
Yeah.
But I always say it's that old machista mentality, the old machismo stuff. Like the guys think, oh, well, this is what women do and this is what guys do, and never the two shall meet. That's their job and not ours. And we've realized now, it's like, no, as a dad, you have a very important role to play.
I'm sorry.
That's all good. But as a dad, we all have very important roles to play, and neglecting that, like we don't just bring home the bacon and that's it and we're done. Like there's a lot more that comes to it. A lot of people,
and our kids need more from us.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I think that's a beautiful thing that our generation has really been doing, because so many of us were latchkey kids back in the day. And I was right here, and I give all the credit in the world. My mom, when my mom and my biological father are split, we had nothing. It was me and my sister and my mom sharing one bed in an apartment in South Jersey, and she was working. We were going to daycare. Like, she had a lot on her plate, and she, we as humans are a finite resource. Essentially, we don't have endless energy to give to everybody we meet all day. We have only so much, and we have to make sure, like you said, we conserve enough to give to the people that are really truly important in our lives. And it's real easy to lose sight of that, I feel like, especially today. Everything is very career driven and everybody's concerned chasing money. Everybody, they glorify the hustles, which I respect. I respect people that are willing to have a strong work ethic and put in the work. But, at the end of the day, at what cost? How much are you giving up to pursue that?
Yeah, and I encourage dads to unsubscribe, to abandon those toxic ideologies that leave our children with the short end of the stick, right? Man, nobody wins. Nobody wins right there. The wife doesn't win, the children, especially the children, doesn't win. And then you yourself lose out as well on making a genuine connection with someone who matters the most, those relationships that matter the most, our children. One day they're going to make a choice whether they want to take care of you or not. Right.
Yeah.
And you want that to be a favorable decision,
making an investment in our own futures now.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, man, it's so rewarding. It's such a reward. It's such a gift. Fatherhood is such a gift. And man, if we invest in our youth, man, if we invest in our kids, man, I'm telling you, man, my child, my son, my youngest, he came to me today. He was like, Dad, today, he's 7. And, he cares. He cares hard, and some kid said that he was a screw up. Right. And said that he was a screw up. And man, I'm prepping. I'm in the middle of recording a YouTube video. Right. And this is my day off. And so I'm trying to be productive. But I knew this was, you never know when you're going to have a defining moment. You never know what moment is going to, have an impact on the kid. So I needed to shut my laptop down and give him some eye contact, what I'm training him to do, right? And listen and be all in and be totally present. And it was a moment where I can encourage him, And so, man, that can't happen if I'm subscribing to these machismo, ideologies and machoism and, these gender roles that were created, back in the day. And so, man, we just need to be involved. We need to be involved. Yeah.
It's a tough one too, because a lot of those things are so deeply ingrained in us, and we've been programmed since the time we've been born, just because the people that raised us, that was all they knew. I mean, people weren't having conversations like this back then. Yeah. So it's just trying to break that old school mindset. And, like I said, some things that still work. Some things serve us well, but other things are really holding us back. And
right, absolutely. I agree.
That macho shit, I get so annoyed with it because it permeates everything. And everything somebody does, you could just, it reeks. It's like a stinky cologne, Yeah,
it's a facade. It's a facade. There's nothing there.
Usually the people that do it the most are the weakest or the most scared.
Absolutely. You're running away from those emotions. You're not even feeling and sitting in those emotions because, we encourage, majority of the men aren't taught to emote, right? Yes. Suppress our emotions, right? Get back in that eye, right? We don't even want to cry.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
Exactly.
I'm not crying, my eyes are sweating.
And if you would peel back the curtain, right? If you would pull back the curtain, you will see just a wake of destruction in that man's life, right? And so we need to encourage men to engage our children on the emotional level. We need to engage ourselves on the emotional level. Going back to that therapy, I'm a strong advocate for counseling. I've been in counseling for a few years now, and man, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable the things that I'm learning about myself and self-awareness and, the dangers of not entertaining those emotions and feeling guilt, feeling, shame and all that stuff, man, is a cloak. That machoism mentality, that macho man Randy Savage mentality is just a cloak, right? It's a disguise that's covering up a larger problem. Yep. And I feel like we need to get to that problem and man, so much truth and so much value will be revealed if we do that.
Well, something you said before too is that, most men aren't taught to emote.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to go back to shout out to Dr. John Shitterer, he was a former guest, but one of the things he had laid out real clearly, really eloquently is that men, like boys, when they're young, are taught that any kind of emotion or feeling, aside from, of course, like anger, is viewed as feminine. Like it's something that we're taught. Like, oh no, what are you crying for? What are you, a girl? Stop that. Toughen up. Do some push-ups. And the problem is that these things are wrongly gendered as feminine, when just emotions are a human thing. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It's a human thing. And
absolutely,
what we do is we teach boys to repress all that stuff. And it's like anytime just existing in this world, people are going to develop some kind of trauma. They're going to have some kind of scar, something that hurt them in their life. But the problem is, if you're not addressing that, it's like if you don't heal where you've been cut, you're going to end up bleeding on someone who never hurt you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to come out all wrong.
Of course, and it's going to bleed into every other aspect of your life as well.
And and you're spewing venom on especially and who you're going to affect. You're going to affect those that matter most to you.
The people closest to you,
your loved ones, your family. Absolutely, those are the ones that's going to get it bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I want to go back to something we mentioned before about, coming in the house after a long day of work, and it doesn't matter how tired you are. It doesn't matter, Daddy worked 12 hours today. Yeah. So no, Daddy's home. Let's play.
Yeah.
What are the things that your kids want to do with you that drive you crazy, that you hate doing, but you do it because you love your kids? And I know for me, my son loves this game.
You got to get me in trouble, boy.
That's all right. That's all right. Don't.
No, you good. Yeah.
Don't incriminate yourself, but like my son's not going to hear this. Maybe down the road, and he'll understand probably when he's older. But
right.
he loves this game Roblox, which whatever. That's what the kids.
My daughter is a Roblox aficionado. Yeah.
And listen, I'm not ashamed to say I'm a gamer myself, casually.
Yeah.
But I don't get this one. I don't know what's so great about it. And he's like, Dad, will you play Roblox with me?
The graphics are horrible.
But he loves it, and he loves nothing more than to get me to finally sit down with him and say, all right, I'll play with you. So I have my own account on my phone. I sit next to him, and next thing you know, 2 minutes later, all right, let's play this game. Oh, my friends are here, and then he's off with the friends in the game, and I'm like, so what am I doing here? What am I, Stevie Bananas? You just I don't matter.
The attention span that short.
Yeah. So what is it for you?
For me, with my daughter is art.
Okay.
She's an artist in so many different ways. She's kind of like a renaissance. She edits videos. She does these TikTok videos that are just super creative and technical and tedious. And she has a gifting. And so it's connecting with her on that. And then with my son, it's more so watch a basketball game together, Dad. Let's play charades. Do you want to play a game? He loves community. He loves interaction. He loves spending time. And so that's pretty much like my kids' love language is quality time and words of affirmation. I feel like they both kind of dwell in that space. And so with them, I know with my daughter, she loves Roblox too. She just asked my wife the other day to play with her. And so I feel like when kids do that, whether it's, Dad, look at my art, Dad, look at, let's watch basketball together. Do you want to play Mario Kart, on the Switch? They're just that's their way of asking, like trying to connect with you.
Yeah.
They're saying, Dad, I want to connect. Mom, I want to connect with you. And so I have to hear it as that. And I don't always have those hearing aids.
Yep. Guilty as charged.
I just look at, man, there's another person that's making a withdrawal, right? Mm-hmm. But no, they didn't ask to come here. They didn't ask to be here. And so and it's my role to lead courageous, right? When it's just like, man, I don't think I have it in me, right? I need to feel that emotion, but at the same time, still show up and maybe communicate through that deal. Like, look, Dad is all in. How about we give you 15 minutes or 20 minutes? And then I transition and do something else. And my kids are awesome communicators. And so they get it honest from their mom. And so, but I feel like we need to communicate and kind of walk them through it. Like, look, man, I'm tired, but Daddy wants to be here, man. Nothing matters most in this moment right here with you. And so let's strike up a deal. How about I give you 15 minutes, man? Would that work?
That's beautiful. That's great.
they're not going to make it past 10 minutes. You know, they think the span's so short, you know, especially my daughter, you know, she get a text message from one of her friends. It's a wrap. So.
Yep, I know how that goes. It's, you know, my son leaves the windows open because it gets hot in his room. And I pull up my car and I park on the street and I'm walking up and I can hear him yelling with his friends on the phone. Dude, Ty, the windows are open, bro. They can hear you down the block. He's like, oh, sorry, I was just excited. Yeah, that.
How old is your son?
My son's 10. He just turned 10 in January. So
that's cool.
He's a little fireball of energy.
That's what's up.
You know, I've always tried to find the things because I grew up. I was like a nerd. I like comic books and video games and stuff. It is what it is. I enjoy those things. But
are those nunchucks hanging up in the back right there?
I got nunchucks. I got tonfas. I got a cane that's got a sword inside. A Chinese broadsword. I got 4 Japanese bokken or 2 bokkens and 2. Well, those are bokkens too, but they're ninjatos.
Man,
I got all kinds of cool stuff.
That wall is intense, bro.
This is only half the studio. I converted the garage into a podcast studio. So eventually, you know, hopefully down the road, you know, maybe one day I could have you here. You could see the rest of the setup. I got the whole shebang here, you know.
I got people in Jersey, man. My wife's side of the family. That's where they're from, man.
What part?
I think I want to say East Orange.
Okay, that's not too far.
Newark.
Newark's like 30 minutes from here.
Yeah, so Newark, and then also Irvington. Her grandmother used to live in Irvington.
That's even closer.
Yeah. And so we got people up there.
I like Jersey. Jersey's got
I
character.
like Jersey too, man.
It ain't perfect, but it's got character.
They drive crazy there, though, man. Yeah, but I love the inner city, man. I'm a city guy myself at heart, man. And so when I go to these huge metropolis like Jersey, New York area, man, I soak it all in, bro.
It's a hell of a place, I'll tell you that.
I believe it.
So, I was saying with my son, like I try to find the things that we have in common, and I feel like, you know, our parents' generation, they didn't have that. Like, there just was never a thing. Like, unless you were into sports, I happen to be a guy who's not really into any sports. I like boxing, and that's it. But finding that common ground with the kid, I feel like it creates like such a great connection that you really can't do just by watching like a TV show or something. Like, just something that you guys both share. Like, so for me and my son, he likes Pokemon. I grew up, I love Pokemon. And we can talk about that. I could talk to him kind of like I'm another kid. And it creates that it's not the same as just like, oh, that's my stepdad and he works and then he goes to sleep. Like, there's something there that me and him have that everybody else doesn't have. And that's a beautiful thing. And I'm trying to nurture that. But it's tough. You know, life has a way of just butting its stupid head in and messing up all your best laid plans. And you know, he's 10 now and he's got his friends so now when I do have the energy, I say, hey, Ty, come on, let's do something. Oh, later. I hope I didn't blow it. I hope I didn't mess this up, you know? So is that something that you've dealt with? Like when you do find like you get that burst of energy and I feel motivated, let's go do something. And then well, I guess your kids are a little younger. So
well, yeah, my daughter is 12. She'll be 13 in August, and then my son is 7. He'll be 8 in September. And sometimes, sometimes, you know, we have our thing that we can connect. Our thing that my son and we connect on is basketball.
Okay.
You know, I wasn't a basketball player. I was a football player, but I love basketball. I love watching the sport. You know, I could follow it. He's good at it. He's played in the league, and he pretty has some God-given ability and affinity for the sport. And so he gets it. And so, you know, just the other day we was watching the Lakers game. And so, you know, he's asking questions. And it's just an awesome time to bond because I reflect back with my father, you know, times that I spent with my father watching football games and ask him about what's the first down, Dad? And how many points do you get for a touchdown, and inquiring about the sport. And so it's just an awesome time to bond. But there are those times where that Kindle will take precedent over anything, any activity that Dad wants to engage in. And so, man, I play sack and fiddle to the Wii, to the Switch, to the Kindle, you know, and even to his friends, you know. And so, and then my daughter, she's growing at such a rapid pace, you know, that 12 to 13 year for a young lady is man, it's a lot of growth that takes place. And so,
listen, I have 6 sisters. So
yeah,
let me just say this. I don't think it's going to get much easier anytime soon. So
I agree.
I give you all the credit in the world, my friend.
Yeah. And so just, like you say, it goes back to finding a way to connect.
Yeah.
Finding a way to connect, and, as fathers, we have to be creative. And then I think we also have to create opportunities to connect as well. I call them board meetings, right? It's this book that I read where, from a father on a fatherhood podcast that I was listening to, and he talked about board meetings, and board meetings was pretty much a meeting that he would meet with one of his coworkers, and they would grab their surfboards and actually go out and hang out and go surfing and everything. But they would be in the office like, hey, is it time for another board meeting? It's like, yeah, they're thinking they're talking about some executive board meeting, but they're actually talking about meeting. And they did it every 90 days, and it just recharged his tank as far as just like, man, his need to connect with his bros. But he said he started using that for his children as well. And it just, his relationship with his children just skyrocketed. And so I'm starting to implement that into my fatherhood plan too, where it's just a one-on-one time where I meet with them one-on-one. We go out of the house for 4 hours. COVID kind of put a damper on that. However, Virginia is opening up. And so we'll go out, eat, we'll go out and watch a movie. My son and I, we just hung out last weekend. We went and watched Tom and Jerry, right? The movie. And
we just watched it on HBO Max last night.
Dope movie, right? And so
I fell asleep, I have to admit. I'm sorry.
I liked it, man. It was pretty cool. It kept my attention. I thought I was about to, be on the phone or falling. I always doze off on these family movies, but it kept my attention. And so, but he loved it. And then we went to this theater where it's like a cafe theater thing. Okay. And so we're ordering food, and it was just the whole experience. He enjoyed it. And it's just a time to connect one-on-one so they can know, so they can get to know their dad. I don't want to be a stranger in my kid's life. And so, man, like, we got to get fatherhood right. We got to get it right. This isn't like, we can't fumble, right? And even if we do fumble, that next opportunity, we got to show up.
Yep.
And then we got to show up again, and we got to show up again. It's a numbers game, if you will, man. And we just got to continue to show up. Even if we fall down, we got to get back up, dust ourselves off, reject shame, and reject passivity, and be there in the moment, man. Because, man, I want my kids to smell like me, not literally, but I want them to have the scent of dad. I want to engraft not only my DNA on them, but my values. I want them to know me, I want them to know my personality. I want them to know my likes, my dislikes. I just want them to know their dad. I want them to feel like they have a healthy connection and relationship with their father. And that takes some intentionality on my part.
Definitely. One of the things I think is that as a father and a child, there's only so much that they're going to see of who we are as people, because, we're always going to be their dad. It's a special relationship. It's hard for them to know us as a man, as who we are. But I've said this, I think having a podcast, like a platform, creating this content, can, not only does it help, we're creating something positive, putting it out in the world, but also, it gives us an outlet. So we're not going to be the dad that's cooped up, has no hobbies, is isolated, has no friends. It gives us something that we can do, a creative outlet, a positive thing. And at the same time, this is almost like a journal, the way I see it. It's like we're putting our thoughts out there to potentially help someone. And we're creating something that maybe 20 years down the road, our kids could say, I always wondered how my dad felt about X, Y, Z. They could go back and listen to all these things we're saying, and they can see who we are. They can see who we are as people, and not just viewing it through that lens of father-son or father-daughter, Right. So being in this space, there's so many benefits. That's one of the things I love so much about this. And I don't care if only 2 people listen to the show, If they're getting something out of it, then guess what? Now it's 3 people, because I'm getting something out of it too. And hopefully one day our kids can maybe get something out of it. I just think the whole idea of podcasting, and especially in this topic, these subjects, is so beneficial You can't even, it's hard to even quantify.
I agree, because we have such a small window with our children, right? Whether it's the length of time that they're under our roofs, or whether, just on a daily measure, right? That when we come home from work, right, we have this small, I know in my home, we have this small window from the time that I walk through the door, from the time where they go to bed, right? It's probably about 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours with my oldest. And so, man, we got a small window to be intentional. And so on my days off, my schedule rotates. And so, man, a lot of times she's in school. My daughter's in school. My son, he goes to face-to-face instruction for school. And so, man, it's just a small window that I have to be intentional during the weekday, Yeah. And so, man, we got to be all in for those 2.5 hours, right? Yeah. I'm in full dad mode, and again, this is not an area that I've arrived in. It's an area that I'm practicing, and some days I fall flat on my face, because some days I go straight upstairs and I close the door and I lay down, and I don't want to be bothered. Then again, there's days where I do that, and I have to tell myself, like, okay, Chauncey, go downstairs. Like, man, okay, you don't have to have a million conversations. Just go downstairs, be present. Hit them with facial expressions, but be present. And then, giving them that, a lot of it is just physical touch as well, appropriate touch. If I just hug my son while I'm down there, rub the top of his head, hug my daughter, nudge her a little bit, like being present, showing up, and so, I mean, that's why that's my motto, like just show up. And it came from running, I picked up running again. And the hardest part of running is showing up to the gym, showing up to the edge of my driveway and turning my music on, turning my Nike app on so it could record my run. And
it's those first couple steps.
Those first couple of steps that walk down the driveway right there. It's right there. It's probably 20 steps away. Yep. Walking to the edge of my driveway and looking at the road and saying, okay, let's get it on. Right. Yeah,
just let's get it breaking that inertia, because it's so easy to just stay and take the easy way out, just I'm tired. Okay, tomorrow. No, it's once you get that little bit of momentum, then you kind of can carry yourself. And that not only with running, that with fatherhood, with all those things. So
it goes back to vision. It goes back to vision. What is your vision for fathering? What's your vision for your family as a father? Do you want to have a crappy family? Do you want to have a crappy legacy? Well, guess what? Sit back and do nothing. Sit back and do what's comfortable.
That's never easy. Show you can do that without even trying.
Easy. It's easy. But if you have a vision and you want your family to be healthy, you want your family to be a loving family, guess what? It's going to require some effort. It's going to require some intentionality. It's going to require you doing some things that you don't want to do. It's going to require you not being governed by your feelings, right? And being that salmon and swimming upstream against your feelings, against your emotions, and going down there and saying, hey, listen, son, let's get that game of Mario Kart in,
Yeah. My son won't even play me in Mario Kart anymore. He got tired of losing.
Hey, I'm the GOAT in this house as well. So I think it's the father thing. I don't know.
It must be. So let me ask you this. Was there any topic, any subject, something that you learned maybe the hard way, like something in life, any life lessons that you want to really drill into your kids? Because I know for me with my son, one of the things I really want to teach him is that make your word mean something. Don't be the yes man. Don't just tell people what you think they want to hear. Make what you say actually matter. Like if you're going to take the time to talk, make it count. Don't just be the guy who talks and just says all kinds of shit and people eventually just tune you out. So when you say something, people are like, yeah, okay, I believe it when I see it. You want to be the person that people can take you on your word and have faith that you mean what you say. So for me, that is something that I'm always vigilant of. I'm always trying to work on that with him. What is it? Is there anything like that for you with your kids?
I guess with me, it would be to finish, right? And to finish strong and to take a turn from the track and field community to sprint through the finish, right? I don't want them to get to close to the finish line and start slowing down. Right. I want them to sprint through the finish with anything that they put their hands to. Right. And to finish strong, because if I could go back and talk to my 18-year-old self and tell them something, it would be that. It would be to, hey, Chauncey, you got to finish, man. Just a small part of my story. I went to, when I was in high school, I got selected to go to Boys State. Right. I don't know if you're familiar with the Boys State program, but it's a program sponsored by the American Legion that pulls juniors in high school. And they pretty much go for about a week and a half, and they learn about government, how government is ran on a state, local, and county level, right? Okay. And you writing bills, you learn how you learn how to write bills, you learn in legislature, they hold elections, mock elections, right? And from the governor on down to like city janitor, right? Or a custodian. That's probably not a PC term, but
we know what you mean. You're not hurting anybody.
All right. And so I ran for governor and won. Out of about 700 delegates, I won. And so I had the opportunity to go to Boys Nation and met the then president, which was President Clinton. And as a result, I was awarded a full-ride academic scholarship to Tennessee Tech University. Wow. Long story short, one of the top engineering schools in the country. And so I went there, and man, I wasted it. I wasted a full ride. I mean, everything was paid for. Room and board, meals, books, you name it. Everything was paid for. I didn't have to pay a cent out of my pocket. And so, and I wasted it. Why? Because I didn't finish strong, right? I started out good, right? I was going to classes. Then over time, I stopped showing up for class. I got in my own head, and there's some other demons that were there too. But for the most part, I just didn't finish. Mm-hmm. And I created this habit of not finishing, right? I created this habit, and it became part of my identity, and I didn't want it. And so that I went into the military because I felt like, man, I need some discipline. I need to learn how to finish. I need to learn how to start a project and complete a project. And those are some things that I really took away from my experience in the Army. And so if I could pass anything along to my children, it would be to finish strong, to show up and finish strong.
That's great. All right, listen, this is going to be the last question for the night.
Cool.
I mentioned this in the notes earlier, but if you could go back and see your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give him? What advice would you give young Chauncey? Knowing what you know now.
First off, it'd be a fight with young Chauncey. It'd be an all-out fist fight.
You want to borrow the nunchucks?
Exactly. I really need to hop in the DeLorean with the nunchucks, for real.
Because where we're going, we don't need nunchucks.
It's going to be an all-out brawl, for real. And so after that fight, I think I would tell him, man, listen, just listen and be teachable. Be teachable. I thought I had all the answers. And I see young men that come across my path like that. I have a young guy that's on my unit at work, and man, he reminds me of my 18-year-old self. And this is, I thought I had all the answers. I thought I had it all figured out. And had I just listened to people who were on the other side of what I was going through, right, mm-hmm. I would have got farther faster. And I just didn't do that. And so if I could tell him anything, I would just whisper in his ear and say, Chauncey, if you do anything, listen, just slow down and be teachable.
You tell him, listen to Pop Talk. No, but that's what we're going to tell the listeners right now who are already listening.
I don't know. What's the podcast?
Yeah. Chauncey, dude, I'm so happy you came on the show, man. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I would love to do this again. So, we're going to stay in touch. Yeah, we got to do stereo.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do a stereo together, man. I'm all
Definitely. In. Yeah, we'll set it up. Before we get out of here, do you want to tell the listeners where they can find you? You want to plug everything you got?
Absolutely, man. And so I'm on Facebook, just Chauncey Julius. I'm also on Twitter at Chauncey Julius. I'm on Instagram. I'm that's the platform that I'm most active on is Instagram. And so on Instagram, I'm at Team Julius 3000. That's at Team Julius Julius 3000. And then the podcast has its own IG page as well, and that's POP_talk podcast. That's pop_talk podcast. Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I put the link so they can see it too when they watch this. But
yeah,
this
has been fun.
Yeah, I want. This is all fun stuff for dads and other just regular guys. Doesn't matter if you have kids or not. It's just we're trying to help each other, just learn, and at the same time we have a little fun. We talk like human beings, and we just we try to learn from each other's mistakes and each other's stories. Really.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And we need to raise awareness along this topic of fatherlessness, man. It's definitely if there's anything that's attacking the men in this country, and I think it's our country's greatest problem is fatherlessness. Man, kids need their dad. There's a ton of research out there conducted by guys that's smarter than I'll ever be, along this line. And so, man, yeah, we need to raise awareness. And I thank you for the role that you're playing in helping to raise awareness. Yeah.
Hey, just trying to do what I can, man. And listen, it's conversations like this. We shine the light on dads, on all the things we do, and all the guys that are out there really doing the right thing. And this is how we do it, one step at a time. We change the culture. We change the ideas of this stuff. So, hey, I can't do it alone. I can't do it without fine gentlemen like yourself.
Hey, man, likewise, man. Next time I'm in Jersey, man, you gotta let me get a hold of those nunchucks, man.
Bro, I'd love to have you in the studio. You let me know. I'll have you over.
That's what's up, man.
That's it. There you have it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you go follow Chauncey and keep an eye out for us on stereo. We're going to try to do something in the near future, and I want to get rolling on this app. I think this has potential to be the new thing, even though, I don't know, I haven't done one yet. But let me know. Let me know who's on it. If you're on it, follow me. Let me know where I can follow you. We'll have some good conversations. This is for everybody. So as usual, you guys know where to find us, A Pot Amongst Men, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're on Facebook. Don't have a big presence there. But make sure you guys follow the YouTube channel, A Pot Amongst Men. Like it, subscribe. You know how it works. And make sure you check out the audio version wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and now Amazon Podcasts as well. So, without further ado, that's all I have for you this week. So, thanks for tuning in. See you guys next week. Peace.